Welcome back to my channel for this week's Human Design Transit Report. And today is Monday, July 24th, and tomorrow is when the new transit starts on the 25th. So if you want to see what's happening literally just today, you can go and watch last week's transit report and I'll tell you about what's happening today. But we're going to talk about the transit that starts tomorrow. So let's go ahead and dive in. So on the 25th, the Earth is going to move into the gate 41 and the Sun is going to move into the gate 31. This is a really potent transit, and I actually really love this transit because these two different gates work together in a very dynamic and exciting way. And we just completed the Unleash Yourself intensive that happened last week. And you can still go and watch the replays if you want. So the link is right here. It'll be down in the description. It'll be at the end of the video. It was an extremely rich week. And I'm bringing it up here because the project of that was how do we break ourselves out of left brain dominance, which is cutting us off from all of our other faculties. And we get to see this kind of dynamic at play right here in this transit because the gate 31 is in the logic circuit. Okay, so it is logical and reasonable and rational, and it's a particularly elevated aspect of the logic circuit because it is kind of like the final expression. It's on the throat and it's expressing out what the logic circuit has to say, and we're going to dive more into that. But then I want to juxtapose it to the 41, which is in the sensing circuit. So these are both collective energies, meaning they're kind of about the bigger things in life. The logic circuit is about patterns. It's about being able to kind of see the big picture, see how the patterns are working. Are they in alignment? Are they not in alignment? How do we get to know the patterns differently? How do we live our lives? And in this case, the 31 is about leadership. It's like, how do we step into leadership through that ability to see the big patterns and to know how to navigate our way forward based on what we see of the patterns? But then on the other side with the right brain energy, which is where the 41 is, it's creative, it's expansive, it's embodied, it's experiential, it's much more of it's a different kind of big picture because with logic and left brain energy, we can see the big picture to a degree, but it tends to be a little bit focal like this, kind of really good for focus. And so we get focused on the pattern, right? Whereas right-brained energy is really expansive. It's how we are able to tap into the unified field, if you will, right? Into the space where the creative intelligence of the universe is working all the time. And so the 41 is actually all about that. So it's a very interesting dynamic between these two different gates that are in both collective circuitry, but one is left brain energy and one is right brain energy. So that's our intro with a kind of big picture look, and then let's dive into the particulars. The Sun moving into the gate 31 is lighting up one of the three major gates of leadership in the chart. So in traditional human design, it's known as democracy, and in quantum human design, it's known as the leader. I've taken this gate and made it into the New World leader in my Feminine Sovereign Archetypes quiz. You may have taken that. You can go and check it out if you want. You can find it on my website. And in it, there's 6 different archetypes, and the New World leader is kind of the new one. The others are really ancient, and the New World leader is the one who is emerging at this time here on planet Earth because we need a new form of leadership. We need forms of leadership that are not about power over, which is the kind of leadership we've been living inside of for thousands of years now, right? Is where the leaders are able to garner power and authority to themselves either through violence or through the threat of violence, right? Through coercion. And the advent of democracy in the kind of Western world, I mean, democracy or some version of that I think is the way a lot of indigenous people have done their work for a long time. But in terms of Western civilization, democracy is a recent development that really came in the more recent history in the development of the United States, right? And people think we have a democracy, but we actually don't have a democracy here in the U.S. We have a democratic republic. So it's an important thing to know if you don't know that, because we basically elect people and then they go and they represent us, but it's in the form of a republic. A democracy is where everybody votes and everybody gets involved in everything. And it works best with relatively small groups of people, right? Because if we had however million, whatever many, is it 330 million people we have in the United States, and if everybody was voting on every single thing all the time, right, it would be a big mess. But this is why town halls are great, right? Smaller groups of people where everybody gets to have a voice. So the thing about the 31 is it's not about town halls, because that would be more in the tribal circuit, right? That would be something more like that the 45 would orchestrate. So the 31 really is about these bigger structures of government and so on, but it can go all the way to like the city level and the county level, the state level, the national level. So we've got all these different levels. But there's a quality of democracy, a quality of equitability, a quality of being paying attention to what everybody cares about and everybody's needs, even if not everybody gets everything they want every single time, right? And so we want to be looking at how can we be creating an environment where we are honoring each other, we are acknowledging each other, we're supporting each other. And as somebody steps into leadership, they're not stepping into leadership to try to control and manipulate everyone, which would be the shadow aspect of the 31, right? Which is where you've got, somebody acting like they're being a democratic leader, but they're actually being authoritarian. Seems like we've had some of that in our recent history here in the United States, haven't we? So it's not that. That's the shadow of the 31. The actual expression of the 31 in its more awakened state and its empowered state is where it is really looking to how do we look for the welfare of all people, right? How do we do that? We have not manifested this in the United States yet, even though it's part of our ideals. We have not manifested it, and it's yet to be seen. History will teach us whether or not that's something that we're going to do. But I want to invite you during this transit to be exploring, how does this energy show up for you in your life? Are there places where you could step into some more leadership? Where you could say, you might be thinking, somebody needs to do something about this. Somebody needs to, take on this cause or this project, and how can I step into that? I have a client who I've been working with for a while now, about a year and a half or so, and he's had this happen in his life where he was participating in a group of people who were considering creating a company, and there was this conversation, and he just had this realization at a certain point. He was like, I need to step into leadership. I need to become the CEO of this company, right? And so he did, and he is. And now he's leading this company, and he's leading it into the future, right? Because he got the inner message. He actually has the 31 lit up in his chart. He's got the 45 too. He's got a lot of leadership in his chart already. But my point is that he got the inner message. It's like, I can't just keep looking around to the other people at this meeting or the other people around the table and thinking, well, somebody's got to do this. It's got to be me. So my invitation to you is to consider, what would that be for you? Now the 31 is resting on the earth and the gate 41. So the earth in the gate 41 is a very different energy. It's still collective, so it's still kind of about the big picture. But since it's in the sensing circuit, it's really creative, which makes sense because it's the gate of fantasy or the gate of imagination. So fantasy, the way it's named in traditional human design, is kind of like, oh, I'm just fantasizing, I'm fantasizing that I'm in this relationship, but I'm not really, I'm fantasizing that I have this incredible job, but I don't really. I'm just fantasizing. We might call this wishful thinking, right? But imagination is totally different, because imagination is when you're actually plugged into superconsciousness. It's when you are acknowledging and working with your innate capacity for your imagination to connect with the flow of life, that creative intelligence of the universe, and to have it help you to imagine things. So this is one of the big things we were doing during the Unleash Yourself intensive, is we were working with how do we unleash ourselves from so much left brain dominance and actually stimulate our right brain creativity, and imagination is a big part of it. Because imagination is a component of our creative intelligence, right? And it's part of how your inner being speaks to you. It's part of how you start to create things as energy first and work with that, right? And it could be musings, it could be visioning, it could be a felt sense. Like, I'm not a very visual person, so for me it's more of a felt sense. It could be a lot of different ways that your body is speaking to you, because imagination is often very embodied, right? And so it's about our ability to tap into this creative intelligence that is also animating you and animating me. We are each an individual expression of that source energy. So it's part of our birthright, and yet so much of it we push away. And I think the traditional human design name of fantasy, like fantasizing, is one of the ways that we dismiss the power of our imagination. I know when I was a kid, highly intuitive, and I had people tell me, oh, you're just imagining it. It's not really like that. It's not really real. And then I found out later, I was right. But, I was a kid. What did I know? I listened to the adults around me. But I dismissed what I was receiving intuitively as if I was just fantasizing, right? Oh, you're just making that up. You're just imagining that, right? Well, our imagination is one of our high faculties. It's part of our, innate intelligence, right? So it's really important for us here on planet Earth right now to be reclaiming these intelligences. So the Earth is lighting this up. So the Earth is asking you to ground yourself in the awakened and empowered expression of your own imagination. And then that is what supports this new world leader to be able to create and step into leadership that is really looking for the highest good of all people, but not just all people, but the living world as well, right? Because we're not alone here on this planet, right? We've got ecosystems that are full of thousands, tens, hundreds, billions of other beings, right? Which we don't actually take care of all that well or pay that much attention to. And so part of what needs to happen is that 31 needs to be infused with an understanding of the significance and the value and the innate significance of the living world, right? Which unfortunately we've been largely programmed out of. So this leader really needs to get that piece. And the leader may well benefit from stepping into an imaginative place to ask oneself, what is it like to actually tune in to the greater well-being of all of life? How can I use my imagination to help me experience that in some way for some period of time? Not so much that you get overwhelmed or confused, right? Because too much data input, you'll shut down. But just to be able to expand and reach out into that, right? So that's what's possible. There's just this beautiful relationship that we can have between our left brain and our right brain, and our more imaginative, intuitive, creative side, and our part that's really working in ordinary reality to help make our lives and everyone's lives better, right? But in order for us to get into that new world leadership, we have to have these other faculties engaged. If we do it too much with just this left brain dominance, if we allow the logic circuit and the history of leadership through domination, which unfortunately has used a lot of left brain capacity to do that, if we allow that to happen, we're just cutting ourselves off from this huge area that we actually have available to us. So the replays for the Unleash Yourself Intensive are going to be up just for another 10 days or so until August 2nd. So if you haven't checked it out yet, you still can. I highly encourage you to do that. People have had incredible breakthroughs this week. And I have to say, this is a really, really different approach to human design. You haven't seen anything like it. I haven't put it out on YouTube. And I encourage you to check it out, because I think it's the wave of the future. And I encourage you to come along with me. Okay, many blessings. Much love. Bye for now.